Peace and prosperity be unto all who's listening and watching. It's your girl LaShaWright, and I'm back with another video. And today we're going to talk about how you can work on being more vulnerable with not only yourself but other people. Now, many people suffer from the lack of certain things because they experience absence or abandonment or mistreatment or abuse or the lack of affection growing up. So there is many things that can indicate or prevent you from receiving or being able to have the ability to be vulnerable. Being vulnerable is a good thing because it's a superpower in which most people don't understand. Being vulnerable and being honest about what it is that you feel, powerful. The best way to practice vulnerability is allowing yourself to receive it. Meaning certain things that you know you are against, right? That you deep down inside you linger for certain things. The things that you know that you aren't used to, or you're not used to getting, or you've never had or never experienced before. When you receive those things and they're not negative, they don't rub you off wrong, but you're not used to them because it's a comfort zone or the lack of that puts you in a position of not even understanding what it is that is happening in that moment. I want you guys to really push yourselves to work on not pushing people away from you, because sometimes not being able to receive it is because you haven't learned to give it to yourself. And the only way we can be really effective with being vulnerable is we're vulnerable and honest with ourselves. So truthfully being honest about things that, like, your ability to acknowledge certain things about yourself. Like, okay, let me think about something I'm not good at. Okay, I'm not very good with being open or very clingy or very close, and I'm very detached kind of person, but that doesn't mean I'm not affectionate. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm able to give it to myself first, I'm able to give it to somebody else. And the attachment really comes from isolation or just being a very observant person and just never letting people in. But it doesn't come from like a negative state of being. I mean, because I never had a bad experience that put me in a position of wanting to be a detached person, but I was just pretty quiet and observant growing up. So my experience are different from other people. Most people are very rejective to being vulnerable or allowing someone to be vulnerable with them because, you know, they've never experienced it. It comes from the lack of having someone who was nurturing in their life or affectionate, or someone who shows them, you know, these different things that, you know, ultimately parents show you. You would think your parents know certain things, but they don't know everything. They know enough to, you know, get by with what, you know, pretty much get by, because it's pretty much kids raising kids. You can't expect your parents to know everything. You can't expect your parents to be accountable for everything that they didn't know. But you can be accountable. You can go back and speak on it. You can face the things or the people who caused those things, but you first have to acknowledge those things. You first have to face yourself. You can read some books on it, but at the same time, you know, from somebody who's very logical, very analytical, you can read as much as you want, but unapplied knowledge is not useful. It's not valued, and it's not good. You can read all day and put it in a logic point, put a label on it, but if you honestly don't know how to apply those things, you have to take the proper practice, you know, because like when you're reading something new every single day, like me, I'm learning new ways to be a better YouTuber, and I apply those things every single day because I post a video every single day. Same with myself. I learned something new about myself. I learn things about myself when I'm around certain people, and I work on those things, because applied knowledge is better than acknowledging something without actually applying it. The same with vulnerability. When you know you struggle with certain things, and you're not a hugger, and you're not someone who's very affectionate, and you're not somebody who's very open, you have to practice those things with yourself. Even if you got to practice in the mirror, it's better than not being able to do it. And like someone come in your life and you not being able to receive or accept that person because you've never had it before. And you know, you have this guard up to people who naturally are meant to be in your life, but everyone who is not meant for you, you allow those people in. And you know, that also comes from things that stems from our childhood. Vulnerability is really powerful, especially for men and women. I want people to respect the power of vulnerability and having the courage to, you know, speak on the things that you experience, the things you feel, things you've been through, you know, the things that's wrong with you. I mean, there's nothing wrong with talking about these things. It's healthy. It makes you better. And, you know, it's holding yourself accountable, because you're being committed to yourself first before you're committed to anybody. If you can't commit to you, you can't commit to anybody. I'm just going to be honest. But the biggest thing about vulnerability is just being honest, being transparent, and being true. You know, because allowing your mess to be a message to somebody else is powerful. Your vulnerability is really powerful, okay? So, like 99%, or I think it's like 80%. 80% of the things that you experience is not for you, it's for somebody else. So you're strong enough to overcome it, but there's somebody out there that feels like they can't. So the biggest thing I want to encourage everybody to do is really work on themselves, being honest and truthful and vulnerable. And like, though you can read as many books as possible about vulnerability, and you can, you know, observe it, and like, it's a psychology behind it for sure. But if you learn something and you don't put into practice what you learn with people that you're comfortable with, you know, people that will help you work on those things, if you don't put into practice the things you learn, then there's no point in learning. It's not valuable at all. So I just want to encourage you guys who struggle with being vulnerable, because, you know, I'm not somebody who's like very open to sharing my true self. I'm not saying my true self, but my inner, most sacred, deep emotions with people. But when it's somebody that I love, somebody I truly feel that they will respect what I give and what I have value and what I offer, then I'm willing to give that, you know. But they have to lead by example and be willing to open up to as well. So it's no one-way street, you know. It's something that you gotta work on with yourself before you can work on it with anybody else. And I hope this helped you guys, because vulnerability is really important, it's very powerful, and it makes you better as an individual. I love you guys. I hope you guys have abundance in your life, and I hope this helps with anybody who struggles with being vulnerable, because it's your truth, it's your transparency, it's your ability to have integrity, it's your ability to be committed. It's so many things, and there's so many levels to vulnerability, and it's so powerful. And I love you all. I hope you guys have a prosperous night.